Hi, I'm George Nordhaus. We're talking about independent agents of the future today with Monday morning. We've got two presenters today, and that's a good thing. We're going to talk about ACT and AUGIE. You all hear about that, and I've heard it for many times, and I think they are making an impact, so we're going to be talking about that. Let me tell you who we have as speakers here today, presenters. Okay, let's go to the Agency Council for Technology, which is ACT, of course, and that's Jeff Yates. A lot of you know Jeff. Jeff has been around for 20 years. And 39 years. Sorry, Jeff, I couldn't believe that. And he was the director of the. He is a director of ACT right now since 2001 for the last 12 years or so. But I've always known him for. He was the general counsel and then the executive vice president. CEO of Industry and State Relations with the IIABA, the Big I. And I ran a couple of states when I was first starting out, and then we got to work together over the years, and he did a wonderful job, and the Big I is really strong still, so, and I'm glad he is. He's enthusiastic about the future. Jeff, anything you want to say other than hello?
Yeah, George, first of all, yeah, thanks for having us, and Cal and I work really closely. ACT and AUGIE work very closely, and we'll talk about that. But I'd just like to commend you because, you know, you gave me back 20 years, but that would be nice. But I've been doing this for 39 years, but you've been doing it a lot longer, and you've done a lot to help agents with their sales and marketing and running more effective businesses. And frankly, that's what ACT's all about. We're an industry organization where you bring agents, carriers, vendors, user groups, associations together in order to encourage the industry to use the most effective technology, have the most efficient agent-carrier interfaces. We also are helping agents increase their online presence with digital marketing, but also online communications, use of social media. We help agents with information security, and then we try to keep the industry focused on the future. There's so much change happening. What are the key things that are going to affect us? What are the key trends? And so we have a very active strategic future issues work group. And of course, ACT is part of the Big I, the Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of America. And we have a connection to our, you know, state associations. We have state liaisons for each of the states, and they do a wonderful job helping us get the message out to the grassroots agents, and as well as giving us feedback on here are industry issues we have to look at to improve how we do business. So think of us as the group along with AUGIE that's working on the business. You know, how do we improve it? How do we stay competitive for the future?
Perfect. Good introduction. And joining Jeff today is another presenter who's already presented for us one time. She's the first double presenter. Congratulations, Cal. Cal Durlin is with Accord, and she's the Director of Industry Relations, as you can see. She's got a wonderful background in the industry. She was an underwriter. She was a broker. And now she coordinates associations all over the world. This thing's, I mean, it's a worldwide organization. And incidentally, you can hear more about AUGIE, about Accord, if you, well, about both, everything. If you go back to the list of our organizations that you'll see back. You can go to roughnotes.com. I'll work it out eventually, the archive, and you'll see her first presentation, which was very, very good. So welcome, Cal. What's going on now?
Well, thanks. And one of the other things, George, that I also add, it's not in my official bio, is that I'm the wife of an independent agency principal. So a lot of the things that we work on, both Jeff and I, are benefited by, you know, my husband's agency and all the agencies. So it lets us know what really works and where we have opportunities to continue, you know, making a difference out there. As you mentioned, I also manage AUGIE, the Accord User Group Information Exchange, and that's a group that's led by agents that are agent representatives from all the systems that are out there, providing feedback back to Accord and the carriers and the solution providers and everybody that follows us to help improve the Accord standards and come up with materials that help to get that information out to their user base so that they know why they're using their systems. So there's a lot of working together. As Jeff mentioned, he focuses on, one group of initiatives, and AUGIE focuses on things that are related to the Accord standards, to, efficient workflows and why we are doing those workflows. And it's become a great tool, and it's a great reference to Accord. They're always talking about, the grassroots input that comes from those agents, because Accord was formed years ago by the agents, and they are still making a huge impact on Accord and the standards that are used by the industry.
You guys think that there's going to be a future for independent insurance agents? We've been hearing an awful lot of crazy stuff lately.
All right, Jeff, you get to take this one. So here goes.
We're both pretty passionate about this issue. And George, we've been hearing about the demise of the independent agent for more than 40 years.
Yes, thank you.
It's not happening. In fact, I think this is the most exciting time to be an independent agent. We're seeing a lot of change. There's now accessible technology available to agents to really help them level the playing field. And I think McKinsey, the McKinsey report on the agencies of the future, I know you've had sessions on this. They basically make the point this is the end of the era for the local insurance agent, and that only a small subset of the current agents will transition successfully. But then they also make the point in the report that they haven't seen this happen yet. And in fact, in our Future One research, where we take a gauge every 2 years of the overall agency population, the amount of independent agencies actually grew, and it was primarily from captive agents who decided to become independent agents because their companies could no longer provide the breadth of markets and the choice that independent agents can. And then the other interesting report that came out recently was the AM Best study, which was heavily influenced, I think, by the McKinsey report, and they said they're going to look at distribution management much more closely in rating companies. So my concern about both the McKinsey report and the AM Best report is that they are not seeing the innovation that is actually going on among independent agencies and their companies, and the strides we've made. And Cal and I are going to talk a little bit about those in the session today. But I think, and shame on us, we need to get that message out much more strongly in the future about the success stories we're doing. One thing about the McKinsey report that I thought was really positive was that they did, make a mention of a lot of positive things that agents need to be doing in order to be successful in the future. And again, I think we need to be aggressively, as an industry, communicating the success stories. And I know Cal and I have talked about this, and we're going to be doing that in the future. It's an industry must-do issue, in my opinion.
Jeff?
And I also think, and let me just finish with
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think the agents and the carriers, we have to have a renewed sense of urgency in our distribution system to really implement the things like real-time, the things like commercialized download, the things like electronic policy delivery and electronic signature, all of these great innovations that give a better customer experience. We need to have a renewed urgency to get those done, because we face strong competition in the future. And with those tools, we have the better business model, and we have to work to get that message out in a more effective way than we have before.
Well, you're exactly right, and I want to just remind people that the McKinsey study is recorded, and it's on the it's on the archive. Go to roughnotes.com or YouTube or whatever, and you can see that. Go back to your email. Look at the McKinsey report, read it. Make sure everybody in your agency has seen that, because it is a shocker for me. And then the presenters on it were Scott Addis and Roger Sitkins. You just don't get any better guys who really understand what the future is going to be. So just a note. Thanks, Jeff. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just want to make one more point.
Yeah.
There's both the McKinsey report and the AM Best report argue that the auto insurance business, which is 70% of the property casualty business, has become a commodity. And there's no doubt the advertising of the direct companies and others is trying to make it into a commodity. But I just want agents to think about a principle that Daniel Burr's Technotrends says that I think is so relevant. He says, go opposite. When you see everybody trying to make it a commodity, you go opposite, and you demonstrate to your customers the value proposition that you're offering, and you get away from the minimum limits so that people are properly protected. And you do those things. You have continuing communications with your customers. You have a person readily available. You can bundle homeowners much more effectively than the directs can. We can take back more market share in personal lines and in auto insurance, but we just have to be aggressive and use these tools to do it. And we have to communicate our clear value proposition. Every employee in every agency has to communicate that value proposition.
Good. Cal?
All right. Well, and as you've both been talking about, the independent agents are business owners, and they evolve their businesses. And as was mentioned in the McKinsey study, and it's happening today, they are picking niche coverages to service their clients. They are specializing in, consultation services and doing things that make them special in their communities. And they're very active in their communities. They live there. They participate in schools. They participate in, sports teams by sponsoring. They are doing what they need to do to make that business successful in that community. And that's one thing, like any business owner, you have to change and you have to evolve. Just think of the retail stores in the towns. Everybody that does things has to find the thing that their client needs. And that's what's fun about the independent agents. They continuously are evolving those businesses. And then they're participating in groups. One of the things that, we talk about is a lot of volunteerism. And independent agents volunteer in a number of ways. What we have up on the screen right now is ACT and AUGIE, and in their independent agents or the PIA, they join those, or they belong to their user groups of their systems. There's a lot of different ways, and every agent that we've talked to that has done that has said they get more in return than just their time, because they've made connections with different people. They're ahead on learning the different ideas on how to evolve their agency, because they get that feedback from these groups of people that are coming together to talk. So, that's a key thing for independent agents, is not just, watch your own business, but look what else you can get involved with in the industry that can help get you that, leading edge and that information that will help you. And then the other thing is that they're using their systems. So they're just tools. They have agency management systems that keeps track of all that data about their clients, so that when they get a call, they can, as Jeff mentioned, bundle, coverages by saying, we've got your auto, can we help you with your home or your umbrella? There's a whole slew of different things that they can do to grow that policy count with that client. One of the things that we just talked about at some meetings last week is how many independent agents have both the personal and the commercial lines business for their clients. Start thinking about that. There's just different ways. Once you have one line of business or one connection, the more you grow it, the less chance that they're going to move to somebody else, because they get that relationship with you. And then there's tools that are for rating. So an agent now can enter information once into a system and aggregate and get all that information back, so that they can present the best options to their client. It's options, it's not price. As Jeff mentioned earlier, it's not a commodity, because there's different limits and deductibles that are in there, so that your trusted advisor, your agent, helps you with that information, because they've got that tool and it's easier for them to get to. And then be 24/7. Everybody now is, we're connected. We're totally connected with our devices, and as something happens, you want to reach out to your agent, and the successful agents are, 24/7. They've got the tools they need to help them that way. And then there's the producer tool. So, as you're going out and you're prospecting, there's a lot of tools that are out there today for agents to help them grow their book of business. And those savvy independent agents that are evolving their business, they're using them.
Okay.
And then, one of the things that we always talk about is you have to measure. You need to know, what your results are. So these agents are measuring their results, and they review their agency data, and they focus on the customer. And, so here's some examples of some very successful agencies that are out there. And one key link that brings them all together is that they've all become best practices agencies. And I know, George, you did a couple weeks ago with Shirley Lukens a session that's also in your archives about what's involved with becoming a best practices agency. And It's a lot of work, but the return that they get is, it's immense.
They love it.
Do you want to add anything? Because you're with us on this one.
Oh, absolutely. And Cal, I would just like to second the fact. What I think is neat about all these agents you've mentioned here is they get involved in the industry organizations like ACT and AUGIE. They hear the innovations that are going on, and then they take them back and implement them in their agency. Steve Anderson has a term. We need CIOs in our various agencies, a Chief Innovation Officer.
Good.
Because so I think it's a great concept, and the need to have a agency that embraces change, is willing to look at change. In this way, we can keep up with the fast pace of change that we're seeing in our consumers. But on the best practices, I just have to mention that Shirley, in reviewing this at a recent special event at the Big I, talked about how the best practice agents are achieving greater organic growth than in the past because they had set into motion strategies in the soft market that are now bearing fruit. There's more recruitment of new producers, and they're being more successful in it. And that's a real hot button with all agents today. How do I get new blood in, and so forth? And what's interesting is they're not looking at insurance expertise necessarily as the first criteria. They're looking at things like values and do they have the drive to be a good producer? Do they feel they can teach the insurance?
Right, and actually, I think we heard at it was probably the ACT meeting that, and from Shirley, some of the best producers were students that were, BC students in college, but they were active in so many different, communities and clubs, and they're your outside people, and they have become great producers when they came into our industry.
And also part-time, people who are working part-time, people who really understood the meaning of a dollar and so forth. Right. And then the other thing in the best practice, which was a real interesting thing, is the best practice agencies are moving more to specialization. And this is kind of a key theme. Cal, you mentioned it in the McKinsey report, but Shirley's group values agencies with specialties at about 1.8 revenue versus a general agency at about 1.15. And the reason is there's 5% higher profitability on this specialty type business, and with specialization, and it retains better, and has greater growth. So that's a really interesting finding. And then the other one I thought was really interesting is the best practice agencies are more and more affiliating with clusters and networks of other agents because they want to be associated with other quality agents who have good ideas, so they can not only broaden their markets, profit sharing, but it's just learning from other agents who are in order to keep the creativity going and the new things. And finally, technology, which is very, at the core of what ACT and AUGIE do. Technology is a real driver for the success of these agencies, and their number one priority now going forward is spending money to really improve their internet presence, their internet marketing, their internet communications, and their involvement with social media. So I thought that those are really interesting things about the best practices study this year.
Yep, definitely. And as we keep talking, and we mention all the time what gets measured gets done, and these best practices agencies are continuously looking at their reports to see how they're doing and looking for those new opportunities.
Yeah, that's a key point. One of the weaknesses within the independent agent system is that a lot of agents don't really track their metrics. But one of the differentiating factors of growing agencies is the fact they know where every piece of business is coming from, and they know the success of different marketing efforts. So metrics tracking is really important, and actually there's a great article that Chuck Mondino of Safeco did for ACT that's on the ACT website dealing with the key metrics to look at for a growing agency. So I'd encourage people to go to the ACT website and see that.
Okay.
So
how did these agents get there, Jeff? We've talked about a lot of it.
Well, we already talked about a lot of that, but I think one of the issues we have today is a lot of customers, a lot of clients, a lot of consumers are changing faster than agencies. So it's really important for agents to have a very close pulse on what their customers are doing and how they're changing. And agents, for example, bring in clients to their staff meetings to see, who've had an insurance experience to get their direct perspective. Some agents have set up client advisory councils where they get feedback. So let's say I want to do a mobile app as an agent. I get feedback from my clients on that. And then I really think agents need to get into ratings. There are tools you can use where you get customer ratings online. And a lot of the general public look at ratings in deciding what services and what providers they're going to use. So I think that's another area. The other thing is, some people feel, well, the more I do technology, the farther away I'm going to get from the customer. I think it's exactly the opposite. You can use technology today to enhance the overall customer experience you're giving. So that, for example, if an agent wants to do some online things like get online certificates or online auto cards or see their documents through an agent portal, they can do that, but they also know that with an independent agent there's a person there. So the modern day customer wants to do research online, they want to do some self-service online, but they also want to know there's a person there when they need them for advice or in a claim situation. And so the agent can use technology to enhance that experience. And finally, I think the agencies that are really succeeding have created a culture where innovation is prized as a core value. And they look at technology strategically. How can I give us a competitive edge? And they encourage ideas from every source, from their employees, from their clients. They look at what's happening in other industries. They survey their clients regularly. And they hire employees who embrace change and ask the right questions, in the interview, that these are going to be thinking people. And finally, they involve the employees in the shaping of the change and the implementation of the change so they get the buy-in in it. And so again, critical to be agile, to be flexible, to be anticipatory, to really try to keep up with what the consumer is doing. I think this is how the best practices agents and the agents of the future are going to be in a strong competitive position for the future.
Right, and they don't have one way of doing anything. They use every opportunity that's out there. So with the social networking, with the tools, they use it all to be there where their clients want, in the way that their clients want, to connect with them.
Exactly.
So that's huge. All right, and then we just, recently have been talking about the massive, just overall technology-driven change.
Yeah, and I think the key thing here, Cal, is the fact that this is opportunity. This is opportunity for agencies. This is how there are agents out there that are using technology to differentiate themselves. Technology is allowing people to rethink how work is done, whether what kind of physical office they need, how much of a virtual agency they can have. It's breaking down geographic boundaries. So, like for example, agents that do high-value personal lines, they're hiring producers in other areas of the country where there's a high concentration of this type of business. So again, look at technology as a change. And one thing that, this is Daniel Burris, of course, with Techno Trends, that talks about the transformational changes that we're seeing today and how technology can be used. But what he also says is it's critical for agents to have a future view. And that is a fixed view of how they expect their future to be, what their vision is. It's not just a wish or a hope. It's we expect this. And he gives us examples. President Kennedy, when he said, we are going to go to the moon. And they kept reiterating that, and we got there. Or the I have a dream speech, this is our expectation for the future. And I encourage every agency to have that. Have a vision of where the agency is going and stick to it, and then take the steps necessary to get there.
Well, and even the industry vision that we've got, that all independent agents' clients are going to be able to self-service from that agency's website. That's something we're all working for right now. So there's a lot of opportunities being worked on, but you have to, as Jeff said, have that vision and just evolve your business to, reach that vision.
So like agent portals is a great example. Agents are starting to have client portals on their website where they put the electronic documents and other things for their agents. For their customers. And this is just starting to evolve now. But it's something I think agents need to look at, because as consumers want to access information, they don't necessarily want it delivered to their PC anymore. They want to be able to access it from their mobile device, their iPad, from their PC, whatever, when they want it. So I think agent portals is another area, and agent self-service on the agent website, I think is going to be something that is more and more going to be in demand going to the future. Just like, Cal's been a real leader on the electronic signature issue. That's a real way to improve client experience, and it's a great extension of going paperless. But it's really, and And her husband is a great example of really saving a lot of time and using these electronic signature tools.
So even to just reinforce what Jeff was just talking about, it's the mobile technology. It has to be out there. We know our clients are using it. We all have smartphones. We're connected, kind of a world. Our websites have to be mobilized. Electronic workflows, as Jeff mentioned, e-signature is something that we're talking about right now. And next year it's going to be second nature to us because there's no reason not why an agent shouldn't be using e-signature today. It's legal to use. It's an efficient workflow. It's point of sale when you've got the client in front of you and you just want to get that sign off and you're moving forward with the business. It's just a great workflow. And people that resist it saying it costs too much aren't looking at their actual time where they're printing the paper, they're mailing it to the client, they're waiting for that client to open it up, review it. When they send it back, are they signing everything that needs to be signed? When are they getting it back? If there's a lapse time, is there follow-up? With electronic signature technology today, it'll do all that for you, and it'll come back even more secure and more tracked. I heard one story where, you hear all the time where the agents initially, when this was coming out, were saying, I'm checking with my companies. And as they're checking with the companies, they're getting different responses from different departments of, yeah, you can use it, no, you can't use it. And one, thing that I heard that I just last week that I thought was pretty funny was an underwriter actually said, well, no, I like the way I get the electronic information right now. My agent will get the signature, he scans it, and then they fax it to me. You have no idea who really signed it. You don't know when it was signed. All of the technology today locks it down so you know exactly what the workflow was. So it's just kind of funny the way it's resisted. But in a year, George, from now, we're not even going to be talking about this. It's just going to be used by the agents.
Hope
so
you're right.
That's my prediction on that one. E-policy delivery is something that ACT's working on right now. Right?
Yeah, and then, Capra, I just want to say, Court has really done a service for the industry. They produced an excellent legal opinion. They commissioned this for all the rules for electronic signature and e-policy delivery, and it's up on the Accord site, and we have it on the ACT site as well, a link to it. And it's just a great tool that that Accord has produced in this area. And then we've had a very active group on electronic policy delivery. We're trying, first of all, to have more consistency in how these policies are delivered to the agent. And with electronic now, it's much easier to deliver a index PDF that is easily searched to the agent. And then we're also working on delivery options, whether it's using agent portals or you can use e-signature actually as a good way to send policies to a customer, get an acknowledgement, e-signed, and then securely send the policy to the customer. And then also, using secure email is another way to do it. But that's a whole area that, we've had a very active work group, and that's the kind of thing ACT does, is when an issue or a problem or an inconsistency in the industry comes up, we set up work groups, and then they dive into the issue in detail, and then bring back reports, create white papers, create articles for the industry that hopefully shows consistently, here's how the independent agents would like to see this go in the future.
Right, and the two groups advocated. So although Jeff, ACT might work on something, AUGIE supports it and communicates it out to the people that are involved with AUGIE, and vice versa. As we work on things, like e-signature, ACT advocates for us. So it's all the collective resources helping these independent agents have a great future, which, as Jeff mentioned before, they do, because it's still a growing industry. So everything we hear about it going the other way, nope, it's a great business to be in, and just keep working on it. So they, these independent businesses, they specialize in services to protect the risks of their communities. They know, they live there, they know where the niche coverages are, they know what they can specialize in, and it's happening today. And the key thing that we keep, going back to is their trusted advisors. They are a person that ultimately their client can talk to, that can help them understand, because insurance isn't easy to understand. And these people are professional people that are their advisors.
Yeah, and this is where I just want to mention a challenge for all of us, and that is, we have the best business model, the trusted advisor. We can give the choice. We can shop for the customer. We can advocate for the customer. The problem is a lot of customers, a lot of potential customers are not hearing our message, and that's where we as an industry have to redouble that. And part of that's an association issue. You know, we have the Trusted Choice. We have this Project CAP in order to try to get the independent agent message out in a more strong way. But it also is, so that's the air cover. But the point is, every independent agency has to really think through a clear value proposition of what they offer as an independent agent. And they have to use social media, blogs, get a strong internet presence, and help us get that message out there. It's a grassroots issue as much as it is national advertising.
Right. Yeah, they work in their local communities. They use Facebook pages, and when they use the Facebook page, it isn't necessarily to sell insurance. It's to bring awareness of their agency to the community, to show that they are somebody that belongs there. They participate, how they participate. It's, again, you know, if you think about it, how many people would you buy insurance from on a Facebook, or would you like to like their page? But when you hear about the different things that they're doing and their staff.
Welcome to GoToMeeting. There are 2 other callers on the call.
Communicate. This is one way for you to protect your risks, your assets, you know, out there. Give good advice. Again, not selling anything. You're just being that advisor, that you know, person that has an interest in their risks.
Yeah, Chuck Blandino makes a great point about be authentic in your online presence. That's the most important thing. Show the interests and personalities of your staff. Show your community involvement and talk about that. A lot of people don't like to, you know, they keep it very professional and they just talk about insurance. They don't want to talk about themselves personally, but that is such an important thing to build that trust and relationship and that authenticity that today's consumers are looking for. So I really encourage that, and it's just really commendable the amount of community activity that a lot of agents are doing now, and we just need to make sure that message gets out.
So the independent agents are working to bring efficiency to their workflows. They pick a system of choice. They use it for quoting. They synchronize their data with the carriers so that as they get questions, they can respond to it, you know, at the point versus what used to happen in the past where there was telephone tag. That data is there. They can access it through those systems. You know, the key thing is when the claim actually happens, they've got that information there. They know how to handle it. You know, as they need to issue binder certificates, changes to policies, it's all happening now quickly versus delayed. And that's been one thing that's definitely helped the independent agents evolve because they are able to service and provide advice. And then, you know, the data that's in those systems helps them grow. So as we keep mentioning those best practices agencies, because they know exactly where every piece of business is, they know where there's opportunities, their staff has been trained or is continuously being trained on how to use that data, you know, it just helps them become stronger and stronger in the industry.
Yeah, and then Cal and I, every day we see agents that are using real-time, they're using claims download, they're using commercial lines download, they're using a direct bill policy statement download, and they're not, you know, they're just achieving great efficiency from this. So I would encourage every agency where you don't have these consistently implemented in your agency, do that. This creates the essential efficiency and predicate in your agency in order to be able to free people up so they can do proactive communications with a customer. Customers want to have proactive communications after that sale's made. You can't just wait for the bill time. There should be a continuing process of reaching out to that customer and touching them, and that really builds retention. Right. And then, so this is just kind of an overview of some of the things we're working on. We have, at ACT, we have a very active Agencies of the Future work group. We've done 2 videos, which you can find on the ACT site, which I think you'll enjoy. One is on agency perspectives into the future, and the other is agency strategies for growth. Both those videos are just available on the ACT site, and I encourage you to do that. I think the industry has a big opportunity with business intelligence. It's an area we're just scratching the surface so far. We have a think tank kind of working on that. But one of the areas where I think carriers can really help is they know what the loss history is, the greatest sources of claims for particular segments of the industry. If they could provide useful intelligence of that nature to agents, it could really help the agents when they sell particular commercial risks, for particular types of commercial risks. And, here's the major areas where claims happen. Here's the kind of loss control you have to do. So I think there's a big opportunity for carriers to help us with business intelligence. As I said, we're involved with security issues. So we did a recent paper on on for those that are involved with HIPAA that deal with protected health information. We did a paper on that. We have a prototype security plan available for agents that they can use as a starting point to create their own security plan. The key thing for agents here is to do a risk analysis, have a written security plan, because the regulators are looking at agencies in a greater way than in the past to make sure they're compliant with the federal and state laws here. We have a very active social web work group, a lot of webinars up on how to use the various social media effectively, and we continue that effort. As I said, we have the Strategic Future Issues group, which is looking at the latest trends that are affecting us, then we'll come up with industry must-do issues. What does the industry do about it? And then you see our site to our website.
I have an obligation too, and that is to, I don't want to lose all the people in the world, so maybe we better move on through this now, you guys.
I know, I ended up clicking too far ahead here. So
That's all right. No, but I mean, it's just, there's so much, you guys.
So much to do, right? So,
you guys,
just a quick on AUGIE. It advocates, as we said, the agent's voice to Accord. The key thing is that we're working on making the standards better, so they're plug and play. They're implemented consistently. That's all happening thanks to the voice of the agents into the process. We have all the user groups of all the systems working with us collectively as agents first, and then working with their individual systems. So that's, a plus for the industry. And then the ultimate thing that we also talk about with AUGIE, and we've kind of talked about it here, is nothing happens unless the sale is made. And we've got a workflow document that talks about these agents that have become sales culture because they use the technology and how they've grown their book of business, become best practices agencies, called the Real Time Makes Real Dollars. And then for the company people that visit the agent sites, we've got a document called Productive Agency Visits that just gives them some ideas on how they can work with those agencies to help them grow that book of business and make it a really good productive visit as they make those calls. Everything that we're talking about is because we're trying to make it better and easier for the agents and their carrier partners to work good together and, to grow their book of business.
Well,
so Jeff, we got a couple of videos that we want to share with people.
Yeah, just to let you, we don't have time right now to show these, but these are good examples of where agents have really defined their value proposition. The first one is Paradiso Insurance. Talks about the choices that independent agents have. And then the second one is one that Stu Durlin's agency, Cal's husband, and her son had a key part in this, and then other relatives. But it's a great way of defining what an independent agent is. But again, these are examples of where I think agents need to have a very clear value proposition. Every employee in the agency has to communicate it consistently and get the message out about, what they offer, that they can offer that choice in markets and so forth.
So if you have a chance, definitely go out and watch these videos. With the choices one was one that we've been sharing at a lot of industry conferences, and I happened to share it, as I mentioned to Jeff and George, with my son, 19-year-old, and he came up with the idea for the second video. And just by looking at these, you have people in your agency that can come up with a video that works for you. So definitely, think of this, because YouTube is something everybody's very familiar with and they use nowadays.
Let me just make a point about that. YouTube is going to be a lot more familiar because I've done an interview with Ryan Hanley, and it'll be on the Monday morning of the next week, I think. And boy, he goes right to the heart of the matter, and I really understand it a lot better since I've seen him. What's your last advice, guys?
Well, basically to get involved. We've got, both ACT and AUGIE are groups that you can join. ACT is mentioned in an earlier slide. There's a link to their actual ACT page. ACT is on LinkedIn. That's another way that you could follow, whatever works for you. From AUGIE's perspective, we are part of Accord. You can join the community on accord.org. If you have any questions on how to do that, you can get hold of member services at accord.org.
Well, on ACT, just real quickly on ACT.
Yeah.
The LinkedIn is a great page for, there's some really good discussions that go on there. But if you want to be involved in ACT itself as an agent, just drop me an email. You can go to the ACT site, see my email, and then we can get you on the distribution list.
I think you guys could go on for about a week.
You can tell we have a passion for this, right, George?
Yeah, right.
I hear the passion. I hear it.
What you're getting into, George.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well,
you let us talk and we go, right?
I know.
There's some exciting stuff going on in this part of the industry, and that's what ACT and AUGIE are all about. And the people that are involved, they take these things back to their agency, and they're getting results. So it's important for everybody to have a renewed sense of urgency to take advantage of the technologies that are out there.
And know that there are groups of people working on their behalf, because there are a lot of us that are going to make sure that the independent agents are, great, strong businesses going forward.
I think the industry owes you guys and the organizations and the thoughts and the creativity of all this a tremendous amount of gratitude, at least. And so let me thank you both again, and let me suggest that you go back to the email of today. I'll put those links in there to those videos, so that you can get those, so you don't have to take them off the screen, which is impossible. And I'll put those in there, as well as, of course, the archives. You can click on that anytime, or just go to roughnotes.com and you'll see it right on the home page. And there's some awfully good stuff in there. It's getting bigger and bigger, and this is one of the better ones that we can use to have agencies send to their everybody in their agency to make sure that they all see it. And there's also the link to the Insurance Community Center quiz flash of the day, and then also to the errors and omissions meeting of the errors and omissions tip of the week. So there's a lot of good stuff. Again, I thank you guys. I say guys, and Cal, you understand what I'm saying when I say guys, because you're one of the not a guy. You're a great gal, and we're so happy to be working with you. So again, I thank you both, and we'll look forward to passing this along to a jillion people, I hope.